plays. And obviously it's changing because we've already got 3 guys who are out that, 2 guys out and 1 guy in. That's going to change some of that. Just to be completely forthright, I got some sort of pinched nerve in my shoulder from this exercise I did, and I am on some sort of painkiller that my doctor friend prescribed me that I don't even remember the name of. And I'm a little loopy. So, Sheets, you're going to have to help me out a little bit as we go along. First off, what are your thoughts on the overall day, the slates? What are you thinking about?
I'm thinking that the baseball slate's really hard. There's a lot of – it's not as hard as I thought. Well, how do I put this? I'm going to be happy with who I play, but that also means I'm going to be leaving a lot of players out of my lineups that I know are going to be in good spots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like in a vacuum, I'm going to say, boy, this is a pretty cool lineup. But then I'm going to have to be fighting with a lot of good lineups. And there are decent pitchers you can go to. There's decent stacks you can go to. There's a lot of things that you can do on a slate like this.
I agree. It's funny because I actually have I've come up with more of a stronger take than I had even this morning. And I don't really think that you can fade the Dodgers anymore. I really don't. And I know you can. It's baseball. But on a slate that gets tough, when you get ownership that's not as high as it should be because there's other good options, I just don't see how I'm not going to end up being basically all Dodgers for my main stack unless I mix in some Yankees with the – Yankees will be my other stack. But the problem is I want 5 Dodgers today. I don't want to – I'm not – you know me, I don't take this – I didn't have this perspective yesterday about Coors, on a 6-game slate. This is different. You're going to have actually way more spread out ownership, even though they're still going to be the most popular. It's going to be spread out, and you can get the bottom of the order cheap enough, and probably low owned enough to. I think this is the best spot It's the best statistical spot I think a team's been in this season. I don't think certainly nobody's had an 8-run projection that I've seen. I don't think I've seen that in the last couple of years. Actually, that's a monster projection, and there's a good reason for it. I don't know who's going to make the Dodger lineup tonight. Probably will lower that number a little bit, but I'm all aboard. I just want to start it off with that with baseball. I'm going to play all of the Dodgers, and I don't really think I'm going to have to do it. I'm just going to have to get different elsewhere.
All right, let's go.
That's it.
All right. As I like to say sometimes, I think that one of us is going to win.
Yeah, you're going the other way with it. I know. This is what
on DraftKings I am. On FanDuel, I'm doing something completely different, which you're going to dislike equally. So we'll talk about that too.
Okay, I'm into it. All right. Well, instead of going position by position, I've enjoyed the game by game. We've gotten some good responses to that. So why don't we start it out? Why don't you start it off and talk about the first game and go? I'm going to get this tweeted out.
You just always keep me on my toes. I mean, I literally just spent the last 5 minutes rearranging things so that I can go position by position. You're the best.
What did I say? Did I say game by game? I'm sorry. I meant position by position. Dude, I'm loopy. Come on, you got to remember.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
I meant position by position. It's loopy. It's loopy Friday, and unfortunately it's not like alcohol loopy Friday. It's loopy Friday or high loopy Friday. It's literally on drugs to try and save myself from this excruciating pain that happens when I move my neck.
I used to watch some content where people were stoned on the content, and I'm like, how do you do that? But we're going to find out.
I mean, I guess it's no secret. You've probably found out before at some points. I'm sure we've done some shows where that's been the case. All right. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk position by position, and we'll go. You know what? Why not? We did it so fast, and it's pretty efficient. Let's talk about both sides. Let's start with catcher on FanDuel.
We don't want to do
DraftKings. On DraftKings, we don't have catcher. Okay, DraftKings catcher. Sorry.
So we don't want to do pitching.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Let's start with pitching. You know what? You run this for Bill.
How about I take this over? Okay,
go ahead.
Right. So pitching on DraftKings, I want to go back to my initial take because this is what ended up happening. My initial take was that there's a lot of guys that are really close and that you don't have to go for the chalkiest since there are different options. And then as we went through the slate, I slowly saw myself leaning and gearing towards only a handful of guys, and it ended up going to be the chalkier guys. And I think I'm going to go back to the idea that you don't have to play them. So for example, you would look at at the top of my list, which is Glass now, Plesac, and Paddock. I mean, they're the 3 best, but if you looked at what I was looking at, I mean, they're not the best by a lot. You know what I mean? So, like for example, I wouldn't mind pivoting off of them to some, like like not a mad scientist play, but basically kind of a sharp, Wrigley Wind play and take Kyle Hendricks or something like that.
Yeah, I like that.
I didn't even realize that the win was in. Then you told me about that, and I certainly would have no problem trying to do that. And the other thing I actually might end up doing, probably not. I went over this for like 2 seconds, and then we kind of dismissed it. I don't have maybe I don't have enough lineups to do it, but I might actually take a shot at Danny Duffy also. I mean, just as a guy who's going to be 5% on a slate where I think people are going to naturally do what I did. Just say, yeah, these guys are good, but you know what? In the end, it's going to be Glasnow, Plesac, and Paddock, and I'll just kind of make it work, So I think that somebody like a Duffy and a Hendricks, maybe Hendricks will get a little owned because of the Cubs, the win thing. But I think I'm going to try it, especially if I'm going to probably have to bite the bullet and maybe play a Dodger or two. I definitely want to differentiate somewhere. The other pitcher that we talked about a little bit, which again I don't know if I can do it, is to pay up for Gallen as kind of a low-owned pivot off of like Glasnow, for example. The idea being he just got wrecked by the freaking Mariners, and then he's coming back against Houston, who people still think is like a good hitting team, but they literally haven't hit anything in like weeks. So maybe Gallen is the high price pivot. Maybe someone like Hendricks is Hendricks is not cheap either, and maybe Hendricks is a decent pivot also. So those are my refined thoughts, I guess, on pitching.
So I just want to read, I love the Gallen. The idea of Gallen is striking me more than the reality of maybe me playing him, but maybe I will because I love the Dodgers so much in my big lineups. I mean, I'll play him for sure in my other lineups, but in my big lineups, I want to go through his game log. So he had San Diego. He's faced once. He's faced the Dodgers 3 times or twice. He's been at Colorado once, and then he's had a bunch of these Giants and Seattle games, which normally you'd say, okay, those are easy matchups. And he's had mixed results, mostly pretty good against the Giants. Obviously not as good in the one matchup against Seattle. And by the way, against Houston earlier this year, he did pitch 6 innings and put up 17 DK points, which is not anything special, but he did pitch 6 innings in that game. Just want to throw that out there. What worries me, I think what's going to keep me off of it is the walk rate is so bad and Houston is so patient. But I love the idea of playing Gallen against a bunch of righties when he struggles with lefties. And that's really what's led him to trouble in his starts against San Francisco and Seattle and so far this season. I think he has as high upside, if not higher, than anybody on the slate. The problem is I just can't – it's hard for me to justify it. The way to justify it might be to try and play him with Glasnow. Zach Plesac is I like Plesac and Glasnow. That makes the most sense to me. But I'm very, very happy to pivot over to Rich Hill and Zach Gallen. Those are the 4 guys I'm mostly looking at. Paddock, I'm just debating. It's like his ownership is lower than I thought it was going to be, so I had more interest, but I was ready to cross him off. Now I'm probably going to be back on board. And then your long shot play is Kikuchi. But I do think that the Gallen thing, I can make arguments both sides. I don't love it, but I think it's a good tournament play. So he'll be my long shot tournaments. I don't think I'll have him at big ones yet, but it's possible he ends up in there.
Yeah.
Also, want to say what's up to Joe Pagli. I can never pronounce your last name, man. If you write out the pronunciation, I'll try and get it right this time because I know I've said it wrong before. But what's up, man? Good to have you with us. Yeah, but I think I'm my main lineups right now. I'll just give it away on DraftKings. I have Rich Hill and Glasnow as my favorite pitchers, and I don't mind if you want to make it both pitchers in the Cubs game.
Yeah, that sounds fair. So you're going to have to. Now you're not going to be able to do it because you're loopy, and I'm not going to listen to you. So someone's got to get out there and talk me off of what I want to do on FanDuel. Okay.
What do you want to do on FanDuel?
Well, I want to really play the Dodgers, and I really want to play Mike Trout. I want to do all this, and I think I'm going to play Adrian Hauser at 5,700.
Yeah, the price makes a lot of sense. I don't need to talk you off of that at that price.
Okay.
I can point out that he doesn't ever pitch 6 innings, but so start seems unlikely. That's fine. To be honest, the guy who I would have been into if he had pitched more this year, and let me actually see because I haven't caught up with. And you were interested in the other side of this. Yeah, the problem is that coming up. Well, in all fairness, I actually think that you might have basically the same argument with Berea on FanDuel. I think Berea might be every bit as going to play, and neither are going to be highly owned, but I'm guessing Hauser gets some ownership over there.
I guess.
I mean, I would imagine.
Every time I think that, though, I play these guys that are kind of like these cheaper FanDuel pitchers, and nobody ever plays them.
Yeah, you're right. For the most part, people don't because you can usually get in what you want. But I mean, also to point out, Rich Hill on FanDuel is very affordable at $6,900. Chris Bassett is $7,800, and he's even okay on the other side. Paddock is cheap over here, $82. There's just a lot of. I don't feel like you need the savings, but if you really wanted to do that and do a different build, there's no reason why Hauser couldn't put up like the fourth or fifth best score tonight. Why not?
Yeah.
So it's funny, right? Right as I say that, OJL says, "What about Berea on FanDuel?" Yeah, I totally think he's in the same category as Hauser for me. I would probably lean. I think Hauser's a better pitcher with more strikeout upside, but Berea's got a great matchup and is more likely to probably go 6 innings. That's my read on that.
But the other FanDuel I'll build.
Is Jordan Montgomery in play on FanDuel?
What's that?
Is Jordan Montgomery in play on FanDuel?
I didn't think so. I thought he was similar to Berea.
Yeah. I mean,
but I like Paddock on FanDuel, but honestly, I like Greinke more on FanDuel. Than I did on DraftKings, and I like Hendricks, I guess, on both sides. Yeah,
Hendricks. I don't love the thing is I wish he had a little bit of higher strikeout upside, although he's prone to a little bit times. But yeah, I think that he's in that wind blowing in game. But remember, keep the wind, keep watching the wind blowing. Like when it's blowing 15 miles an hour in, you got to watch it. But as we know from weather and even the predicted weather in this golf tournament, you can take that like as a sign that it's not always going to stay the same. All right, let's move over.
Let's go to catcher.
Yeah, let's do it. You want to start off with your guys?
Yeah, so catcher on DraftKings. It's tough, man. My highest rated guy is Roberto Perez from Cleveland. And I did like a little bit of Cleveland. I don't know if I'm going to get there on DraftKings. I think I have a better chance of getting there on FanDuel, I think. But if I did get there on DraftKings, I mean, Roberto Perez probably would fit in because he's one of the top-rated catchers. And then, Tony Walters is 2,100. So if he gets in that lineup, you can always play him. And then Sanchez at 4,200 for my pay up, but kind of I don't want to say a sneaky pay up. I don't know how sneaky you need to be with this stuff sometimes, but you could pay extra up for Austin Nola maybe at catcher if the other guy doesn't play. Like you think Mejia is gonna play for San Diego? I don't know, but that would be my those are my main catchers.
Yeah, the cheap ones for me, if he's in, would be Diaz and Mejia or Walters, depending on whichever one, But Diaz is the better play than Mejia, so I hope he's in for that sake of it. Now that Wood's starting officially, I think that he might, or at least it looks like he is. I think Will Smith is just so much better of a play than everybody else at catcher. I know he's going to be popular. He and Sanchez are the two that stand out the most, but I would prefer Will Smith. So that's sort of all I'm doing. I don't mind a pivot off of to a low-owned in a good spot, Yasmani Grandal. That's sort of the one little outlier guy. But I like the Perez thing too. And I like some of these Indians, so I don't mind him in like part of a mini stack or something.
All right. First base, ownership aside, my top two plays are both on the same team, and that's Bellinger and Muncy. But they're both going to be 35%. I would imagine 30% owned. I don't know.
Not that high.
But if you don't like that, if you rather play a chalky or cheaper guy, you could play Nate Lau from Tampa. And Tampa is a stack you can try to play. But again, Bobby's cautioned me so many times about pinch hit risk for Tampa in general. So it might not be the slate where you have to do that. But Nate Lau just in and of himself at 2,900 is kind of a cheaper way to go. If you want something a little in the middle, maybe you could do Carlos Santana of Cleveland. And it's threw a couple of other cheaper guys in there. Josh Fuentes, if he gets in the lineup for Colorado. And I'm not even going to mention this guy because I just don't want to do it. I was going to say Guzman from Texas. Then I'm going to start talking about other Texas guys. And if you don't get any of that, you could play the best player in baseball, which is Jared Walsh from the Angels at first.
Yeah, I'm not totally different. I think Edwin Rios is my favorite play.
Ooh, okay.
That he's in for the Dodgers. He's first base, third base eligible. I don't mind him in either spot. I also like Muncy, who is also first base and third base eligible. I prefer those guys, and I hope this doesn't come back to bite me because I don't remember very many shows. I've been right when I mostly said it, but it always makes me nervous to say this kind of stuff. I would definitely prefer Muncy over Bellinger tonight. It's very rare that I feel that way. I don't feel like Cody looks great right now. I would just rather take Muncy. And even though that extra few $100 can make a difference. So Fuentes obviously makes a lot of sense. I also think that Nate Lau is a good call up by you. But that's pretty much the entire group I'm using. Again, it's going to be Dodgers for me. And if Rios is not in the lineup, then if Beatty is or whoever's in there, it's going to be some sort of a Dodger position. The off-the-board play is Matt Olson and Carlos Santana are both strong plays.
Second base, if he gets in the lineup, I guess we're going to be thematic, and I like Gavin Lux. I guess I don't care where he's batting, which is nice because he's probably going to bat ninth, right? So I like him, and then I'll go back to I'm doing it again. Odor, Solak from Texas, and then you could play. It seems like the next logical guy, price-wise, is Altuve, although he hasn't done anything in a long time either. So those are the main guys that they'll look at. And Brandon Lau, the other Lau. You do a Lau two-man.
Yeah, so you're going to have some pretty – it's going to be pretty spread out at second base, I think, which is kind of different than how it's been. I think you're going to see LeMahieu pretty popular. I think the Yankees are going to be pretty popular. I think Odor is going to have ownership. I think Brandon Lau will be the other spend-up guy that people use. My favorite play is Gavin Lux. I'm going to play the lower-end owned Dodgers wherever I can get a chance. So assuming he's in the lineup, whether it's him or Kike, I would play those guys, and they'd be my preferred play. If you want to go cheap, you can go Garrett Hampson on the other side of that game. But again, it's mostly going to be Dodgers. I don't mind Odor or LeMahieu part of or separate in stacks.
So you've had a lot of experience doing this and playing it this way. So that works. When I say that works, like when you have a team like the Dodgers who like rates be in a really good spot, but they're expensive, and the more popular guys are really popular. Like if you play like 4 or 5 Dodgers that are not like the more expensive popular guys, can they actually like get there, or do you like find you get vultured by
the Dodgers 7, 8, 9 guys, 6, 7, 8, 9 usually are better than everybody else's 2, 3, 4, 5. So it doesn't. Right. There's no difference in who you're playing really. I mean, Muncy was their 8 hitter for a million years for a year while he had 40 home runs. You know what I mean? I don't care about position of the order. The real clever thing to do with the Dodgers today, I think, is to try and play like Will Smith and whatever first baseman you choose from them, both in the same stack. I'm locking into this stack. You said there's a lot of ways to go, and I agree with that. What I'm going to do in this situation, when I see one thing as being so much better than everyone else, I'm just going to go over the top. I don't usually do this, but this is the way I'm going to do it today for sure.
You know what you could do? I mean, what's great about it is that. Oh, I was going to say I thought it was the later game. It's really not a late game. I was going to say this way you can take a nap, which you kind of need.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Then you can wake up and say, okay, I have 0 points. Let's start. Let's start playing.
Let's start playing, exactly, yeah. Maybe I can make my decisions then, just like we've been doing with basketball all year long.
Yeah.
We did get a question in from Donnie Kenny about the Lakers. Will they cover the spread tonight? I think it's really a mistake to bet on a lot of first games in NBA playoffs. This, especially with this Denver team right now, just feels like a strange bet. I will tell you, as a Laker fan, I think this is a tremendously dangerous series for the Lakers. I felt that way about the last two, and they it's not that they proved me wrong. They looked like they were in trouble at times, and then they bounced back, and LeBron was spectacular. I think this is a tough series for them. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be surprised if they won in 5 or something like that, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they lost this series. Denver has so many different pieces that can do so many things, and the Lakers really don't. And if Rondo especially is out tonight, that would be a big determining factor for me. I think Rondo has honestly been their 3rd best player in the playoffs, and by a long shot. So if Rondo's out tonight, I would probably lean betting on Denver, but I wouldn't make the bet myself as a Laker fan.
What's the spread?
I believe. Let's see. I had it up a minute ago. Hold on one second. Sorry, I can't jump between screens. I'm trying to read the other questions in there. If you can pull it up. I don't know why with the restream it goes so slow sometimes. And it's like I can't. My other screen will just freeze when I'm trying to do it. Hold on one second. But anyway, let's talk about something else because I don't want to dead air. Running Jokic out there and Plumlee.
Yeah, I definitely have kind of an opinion on the game.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Lakers just destroy him in this game.
Maybe.
I like the Lakers, and this is not something you should always. Now, this is like sports betting, kind of like 101. Is you usually want to take the when you take favorites, like decent sized favorites, they usually correlate better with the over. That's why a lot of bookies don't let you do parlays with big favorites in the over because they correlate so well. But I actually do like both the Lakers and the under today. I just think that I think that Denver's going to kind of I think that the Lakers are going to kind of like turn up the screws defensively, and Lakers are really, really good defensively. Not that the Clippers weren't, right? But I think that the Lakers are going to turn the screws on, and I think if Rondo's out, I think it helps the Lakers defensively. So those are my two opinions on the game. I like the Lakers and I like the under.
Yeah, and we got a question about do we see them running Jokic and Plumlee together for size? I mean, like, look, nobody needs to guard the Lakers' size. You don't need to match up with the Lakers' bigs, in the post. Yeah. It's not like somebody has to guard Dwight Howard or JaVale in the post. So while Plumlee may very well get more scripted in because the Lakers tend to play more with more size, and I think he makes for an interesting GPP play if that's what you're asking about. I think he's going to be more popular, and I would prefer to play Dwight Howard over him. Dwight Howard will be significantly lower owned, and it's a very volatile situation where we don't know how or if he'll play or any of that. But I think I would prefer Howard slightly over Plumlee just because Denver's got 95 power forwards on their team.
I have a dumb question. Why are we not sure if Howard's going to play? Because of just because he might be benched or because of is he hurt?
I mean, he's only played 4 out of the 10 games so far.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but that's because that's a lot of matchups. I mean, Houston, you couldn't play him because of the size. So that's again, that's going to be my play. My play is Dwight Howard.
Is Dwight Howard in the showdown?
Yeah, JaVale McGee, you can try and get creative with your JaVale McGee, but you're not getting creative. You're getting a chunky guy who might play as many minutes as Dwight Howard and is lower fantasy point per minute than Dwight Howard is.
Well, and I've seen Dwight Howard, by the way.
So McGee probably scores more, but I want to make that clear because I get a lot of flack for this. McGee is the better, more obvious play who's going to more likely score more fantasy points. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to win. So Dwight Howard is the guy.
The other thing I want to try to win is it matches my narrative because I have seen Dwight Howard get significant blowout run.
Yeah.
So I am going to be if I remember to play a basketball showdown slate, I do promise that every one of them, which is probably going to be one lineup, will have Dwight Howard in.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of Laker guys that make a lot of sense. I think that, Caruso, and in terms of DFS, we'll get back to baseball in a second, but just because people are asking about it. Caruso, KCP, those are the obvious, spend downs. And then, playing Jokic and LeBron and AD, you can do that if you get creative elsewhere. But I have some Jokic, LeBron, and AD, and I have some Murray, LeBron, and AD. Jamal Murray's had good results against the Lakers, and they don't exactly have a natural guy to match up with him. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's jump back to baseball. We're going to talk about the rest of the positions real quick before we get into it. I want to remind everybody real quick before we get to third base that I remember to enter the code BobbyFi for 20% off of everything at BetQL. These guys are on fire with their picks. Just jump on board now, and please give us the like and subscribe and all that goodness. And then Sheets, we'll jump over to third base.
Okay, so I just paused a little bit. All right, at third base, once again, the best play is going to be Justin Turner. And then, again, I'm kind of buying into your narrative, not narrative, I'm kind of buying into the fact that Arenado is just freaking hurt. So I'm not going to play him. If you wanted to pivot off of Turner, and this is where I think I might end up going, is you could make a gross spend up on Rendon at 5,700. Or you could try to really stick it to Bobby and take Jose Ramirez and watch him get 35 fantasy points again. If you didn't want to do that, if you wanted to go cheaper, you could go to the guy with the consonants on Tampa. I don't even want to try to pronounce that. And on the Mets, Todd Frazier, 2,700.
Yeah, I like the plays you mentioned. Again, it's for me, Rios, Muncy, same thing, first base, third base, whatever. You could throw Justin Turner into the mix there. I just think Muncy's a better play. I don't mind the low-owned Arenado. Just he's so low-owned, it seems bizarre. But again, I don't think I'm going to do it. I love Jose Ramirez. He's the other guy, if I'm not playing the Dodgers, that I would want to get in. I just want – you know me, Chief. This is so unlike me. Don't play Coors and don't play five-man stacks of Coors. And all I want to do is just five-man stack the Dodgers today. So I may not get to Ramirez, but I think he's the other best play. I want to point out that I just think that like the Cleveland guys are going to be overlooked today, and that's just a really good opportunity for a stack. So don't ignore Cleveland if you're playing a bunch of lineups.
Yep.
All right, Chief. So we talk about shortstop.
Sure. Talk about shortstop.
All right. Good.
Corey Seager. Again, we see a theme developing here. So Corey Seager is really, really good. And then my pivot off of him for, is are you going to get like a lower owned Fernando Tatis?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I'll try him. And then I will also play Torres within my Yankee stacks.
Yeah, I think Seager is the best play, and I think that Story will be the highest owned, and he's the second best play. And then I would say that Tatis, if you can get him again, if you're instead of these guys, then he's the next guy I would have in there. So I totally agree with that. I'm looking at it from a point per dollar perspective. I don't really see a lot of guys I would want to spend down on today. I think that Glaber would be about as low as I'd want to go at 3.9 in a Yankees stack, or even separate, it's fine. But the other really, again, I'm just going to keep mentioning Cleveland as a pivot stack off the Dodgers, but Lindor would be the other guy. And he makes more sense along with all Cleveland guys on FanDuel.
Yep.
All right, let's move to the outfield. And this is, you can pick about 700 different outfielders today, and I wouldn't tell you you're wrong about any of them.
Yeah. So let's start then with, let's go a little different. Let's start with cheapies.
Yeah.
Let's start with Willie Calhoun at 2,100.
Yep.
And we could also, go back to Coors, and you could play hasn't hit a ball since the Eisenhower administration, David Dahl. He's 2,600. I mean, like, you just kind of have to.
He's in there.
That. And then you want to spend up for Mookie. That sounds good to me.
I don't think David Dahl is going to be in the lineup anymore because they announced Wood as the starter, which was different than our early show.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this trend is continuing because I'm reminding myself that that Tavares is 2,100, another freaking idiot Texas guy, and Gallo is 3,900. So I'm gonna throw some money away on Texas again. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I am okay with. I like Calhoun the best of those value guys. I don't mind Naquin as much today because he's not going to have ownership at 2,500. All these guys sheets when I talk about the platooning and all that stuff. A lot of it, my issue with it is the ownership factor at those things. You know what I mean? I'm happy to take Tyler Naquin at 2.75 projected or 3.15 or whatever the hell it is projected at bats versus 4 bats. Yeah. But I'm not happy to do it at 20% ownership. But at 5% ownership when he fills in, I don't mind paying a little more for him than Calhoun. And he's got probably, half the ownership of Calhoun. So that's sort of what I look at like that. And I also like the Cleveland stack. DJ Stewart, I think, if you're not playing Glass now, is an interesting because I think you're talking about zero ownership on a guy who's been really good and hot, and he's 2,300 for no reason. I like Glass now tonight, but if you're not playing him, DJ Stewart's going to have 0, 0, 0 ownership and probably has a better chance of hitting a home run than most of these guys and doesn't have the risk of platooning. So he's probably a little higher on the board than he gets credit for. Both Matt Kemp and Ramel Tapia, assuming that Tapia does in fact lead off again tonight because they might do something different with Hampson because of the lefty-lefty thing. But if he's leading off, he's fine. I like Kemp better. I think Kemp has power upside against his former teammate. So those are the spend downs for me with Yoshi if you're playing the Tampa Bay stack. But the more I've gotten through the day, I'm just not getting that Tampa Bay stack, even though I think they might that you're going to put some runs up on the board. From a top level, like, look, I'm going to say, I actually prefer the Dodgers on the infield today because I can skip Betts and Bellinger and pay down a little bit in the outfield and play my lower owned Lux and Rios with Muncy and Seager. So I'm sort of doing some of that. I also think you're going to have lower ownership than you should on the Yankees too because of the spend ups on the Dodgers. So my ideal build, if I could get the pitching right, would be to try to get the Dodgers infielders with the Yankees outfielders, Judge and Stanton specifically, but Hicks is the cheap one. But Stanton's cheap too. I mean, they're all cheaper than they should be. Let's put it that way. But my favorite guys are going to be, because I do need the savings, and they're the mid-tier that people aren't going to try and pay down for, in my opinion. And that's Abizail Garcia and Ryan Braun. I think those guys are, on most slates where you got a guy like Duffy matched up with them, a lefty who struggles with power righties and these extreme power righty lefty split hitters. I feel like you're going to get like 5% ownership on guys who I have projected as in the top 25 of likelihood to hit home runs tonight. So that's what I'm going to do. But all those other spend downs make a lot of sense too. I just think those, if you pay a tiny bit more up and play Abizail Garcia, he's a better play than these guys in the 2-point whatever case.
Okay. You want to go over some stacks?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, once again, I'm not playing probably enough lineups to get to some of these, but I like the Yankees. I like the Angels. I like I'll play one Dodgers. I will on DraftKings. It's gonna look. It's not gonna, like you said. I mean, it's not gonna look like a lot of the Dodger stacks out there. You know what I mean? It's not going to look like a lot of Dodger stacks out there. It's not going to look like the same pitchers. It's just the way it's going to be. Yankees, Angels. I'm going to throw in one disgusting Texas stack, and I'm not going to get to the others, but Cleveland looks fine. I think there's one team that I'm forgetting about, but I can't quite put my finger on it right now.
Yeah, I'm Dodgers and Yankees with a little bit of Cleveland and then a mini Milwaukee, and that's it for me.
Can I ask you a basketball question?
Yeah.
Who do you like? And I ask you this literally every day these guys play. Who do you like more with considering price, LeBron or Davis?
I like LeBron a tiny bit better, but I think it's really close. I have two lineups and they're split in my captain.
Okay.
I really think it's close tonight.
I'm going to tell you something else that everybody's got to keep an eye on. And I remembered this when when I saw Cantor get minutes yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before?
It's a different series, it's a different thing.
Yep, we talked about that, and you suggested maybe Cantor. I'm like, he hasn't played in a long time, but it's different. It's a different series. So be on the lookout for things that can change. Like, for example, look, I'm not telling anybody to do this, right? Because this is like the Sheets loopy play. Okay, so I have a lineup right here, a showdown lineup. It's kind of like a blowout lineup, and the idea is that LBJ and Davis just blow the game out, so they obviously have a lot of points, and I'm putting Porter in the captain, and I have like a 1K play that I want to just win. I'm going to play PJ Dozier in my in my showdown lineup for a blowout run. I mean, he had some okay minutes before, and he kind of got scripted out, whatever. He was part of the couple of big runs against Utah when they were on the comeback trail. And yeah, I mean, he hasn't been able to play because you know what? Gary Harris is back, and all these guys are back. So I don't mind. They didn't put him in. But if they do actually get blown out, I don't know. I think that Malone might just throw him in there. So that's, again, just total mad scientist play. That would be my one, Sheets needs Bobby's painkillers play.
I think, and I mean, I get it. I don't think that it gets to the point where they probably use him too much. I think they'll end up leaning just on Morris in that spot for the most part, but maybe they will. I could see it happening. I would lean more towards the Plumlee, McGee, Dwight, those guys range personally.
Plumlee, that's a good one actually.
Yeah, I think he's going to be popular though.
Oh,
I'm not popular, but like 20% popular. So like, Yeah, but like Dwight Howard is like you might get it like 2%. Like I'm excited about the Dwight Howard thing. Let's see. We got a couple different things. Favorite low cost pitcher from John Diaz. Favorite low cost pitcher. I don't think you need to go low. I'm guessing you're asking on FanDuel because John mostly plays on FanDuel from my memory. So Hauser, Berea, and Montgomery are who you're deciding between. I still think there's no reason to really pay down a pitcher, but if you want to, I guess Hauser or Berea. I don't know. They're close for me.
I prefer Hauser to Berea.
So cheap size Hauser. Okay, let's see. How about this? Let me bounce this off us. Do we think Dan gives up? I think it's a must. Oh, Dan gives up. I think it's a must win for them. No bluff or anything. No, it's absolutely not a must win for Denver at all. Like this couldn't be less of a must win than for Denver. In the playoffs, as far as playoff games go, this is probably the least important game one for a team in a long time. Denver's come off a back-to-back 7-game series with 3-1 comebacks. They did get an extra day of rest here. This is not a must-win for Denver at all. I don't know if Sheets agrees with me, but that's if we start treating any game ones like must-wins, I think it's a mistake, especially without fans and travel.
On the other hand, they're all must-wins. You know what I mean? It's just the playoffs. I mean, everything's
no, but that's why they're not must-wins. We just saw Denver lose in all these must-win games, and they won both series. Like, right. We watched the Lakers lose game one twice so far and not lose any other games. So I'm not going to go on this Lakers are going to blow them out thing. If anything, I think the opposite might happen.
Yeah, I'm kind of into the broom for this series. I just am.
Okay, we might see it, man. I think that you're overrating the Lakers a little bit, but we'll see.
All right.
We got to get out of here pretty soon. We'll talk a couple quick NFL things that we did do. I want to remind you guys, we did post a video on QL TV, so look at the RotoQL site on YouTube, and you can watch that video. We did a whole in-depth thing. But, Chiefs, you want to highlight maybe a few favorite plays that we have from this week? And I know it's changing because we're getting injury updates from the Friday practices today. But yeah, just a bunch of guys.
I'm not even going to approach that if there's these injuries. I didn't even know that they existed.
Well, no, but I mean, it's just
okay. I'll review the same thing we did yesterday. So I'm into, and I did actually make some shell lineups. So I do have a little bit of. I did do a little bit of work. I like 3 games, and what I'm doing right now is I have. I'm going to be doing probably 50% coming from the Houston game. I'm going to go about 25% coming from the Arizona game and 25% coming from the Atlanta game. And what I'm trying to do is just find kind of low-owned one-offs kind of along the way to make all those kind of things work. The one guy that we didn't really talk as much about, but I think makes a lot of the stuff that I want to do work is Mike Williams from the Chargers. I don't know. It seems like some random thing that just kind of.
I like Williams.
Oh, okay. I mean, it just seems like a random thing of all the things. Hey, what do you like in the NFL? And I bring up Mike Williams. You know what I mean? That's what I kind of came up with. I do like. And I also, again, to take low-owned running backs. I don't even know how low-owned it's going to be, honestly. But that guy from Tampa, I'm Tampa. No, Jacksonville. Robinson. So he's another cheap guy that I might use.
Yeah. I'll just go through real quick and like my favorite quarterbacks, and they can sort of assume the stacks for these games: Baltimore, Houston, Arizona, Washington. I like Kyler and Lamar a ton. I'm coming heavily onto the playing just all out with the Chiefs offense.
Ooh.
And play all of it. Play 2 receivers. Play Kelsey and then run it back with Keenan Allen. And I just think you've got something there. So I actually, in one of my very large buy-in tournaments, that's what I've got going in one of them. But Lamar, Mahomes, and Jackson are my favorite. But I do like Dak, Josh Allen, Deshaun, and Aaron Rodgers a lot also, along with Matt Ryan. So I'm trying to figure out those other guys. But my priorities are Kyler with one of his guys. I honestly almost wish I could just play him alone. Lamar with Andrews, Mahomes with either Watkins or Hill or Kelsey. But I don't even mind if you wanted to get weird and a large field play with Hardman, even though I don't feel great about it. And then Josh Allen. This one is the other one that I might be coming. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes don't fit my general love for how I like to stack games, but I think that they have so much upside individually. Like if you can find the Allen to Diggs or Allen to Brown at no ownership, I think you're going to have receivers. The way they aired the ball out last week against the Jets in bad weather after getting up to an early lead, it just makes me feel like maybe they keep going after Miami here. And actually, if Miami's competitive, I like it even better. So Josh Allen, we should start treating him in the same Kyler Murray type of conversation, because he can do so much with his legs, and he's gonna hit some bombs. Now he's nowhere near the real player that Murray is, but this is a good spot to attack. So it's a little spread out. I know what I just said, but that's the game. The games I'm focused the most on is the Baltimore-Houston game, and I think I like the Houston side of it more than most people do. I'm into playing David Johnson. I'm into playing Will Fuller.
Yeah, so I wanted to add somebody to that game that we didn't really talk about. So I mentioned what's his name, Brandon Cooks or whatever. But if he's banged up a little bit, is Kenny Stills in play?
There's too many other guys.
Okay.
I mean, sure, he is. I threw him into like a long shot tournament week 1, but I mean, you're asking for so much with a guy who might like run 10 routes.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that it couldn't go different. I mean, we don't have a preseason. We don't really know what to go on exactly, so it's kind of hard to know. Favorite wide receiver sheets. The problem I ran into when I did my builds is, I love this. I have my strongest take of the week is that I love these running backs, and I'm more in love with Saquon than I was when I first started talking about it the other day. I'm only higher on him. I think that we saw the absolute floor game. I think the ownership's getting lower and lower. I think people are out of their mind, and I love Saquon mixed with the. He won't be owned because of Zeke and Henry, especially, because if you're going to pay that price, that's what people want to play. I say you play him with those guys and try to get the Mike Williamses right, try to get Christian Kirk's right, try to get Deontay Johnson's right, try to get the lower owned receivers, and then get a quarterback that can move with those receivers and get your cheap tight end. My favorite tight end is going to be Logan Thomas against Arizona, which is my run back to my Kyler lineups, other than Mark Andrews, who's my number 1 tight end overall. But I like playing these guys, and I can even throw Dalvin Cook in that mix. I really think that it's a different type of build, and no one's going to play Saquon this week, and there's a great chance that he blows up this whole freaking slate.
Well, with that said, okay, I'm going to reiterate also a take. I keep forgetting who was present for what. A take that I made that I totally respect the Barkley take, but in the same vein, I'm going to have probably a good 20% on McCaffrey. At probably twice the ownership for somebody else, you know what I mean? Probably twice the field. He can get 50 fantasy points, you know what I mean? Like, it's very possible. Unlikely. I mean, it's a really impossible matchup, but hey, we had talked about matchups last week with DeAndre Hopkins, whatever it was, it's can happen. So GPPs, I'm going to be playing him. A couple of other running backs. Now that I'm actually looking at my lineups, I wanted to bring up that if you didn't want to, and I agree that Elliott, Henry, and the top running backs are good, but especially if Lindsey's out, Melvin Gordon, I would definitely try him. And if you're going to play that Kansas City game, Bobby, I mean, you might want to play Austin Eckler, coming back from LA, and you covered most of it. Now, you mentioned Logan Thomas. What's his price?
So I'm ahead of all those guys at running. I want to just finish the running back real quick. I'm ahead of all those guys, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I personally am going to be a little bit on the end. It may just completely burn me according to how everyone seems to be thinking this week, but I may just be off the Jonathan Taylor thing almost entirely.
I'm not playing him. I'm not playing a share of him.
He's like 40% projected. He's the highest projected owned player on the slate, so that's how I can spread it out, because I know that's going to be the next question by people. I'm going to throw in, 5% of Aaron Jones. You know what I mean? I'm going to throw in 5%
I like that.
Robinson. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll get 10% of Austin Eckler. I can do all these things if I fade the obvious top chalk that I just don't think is worth it. And I'm not going to get mixed up with guys like Ronald Jones this week and Todd Gurley. I'm not going to play as much. I actually did like him before, but I don't like him this week as much. I'm just not going to get mixed up with all these other guys, and I can just keep my 6 running backs that I love. The other spend down guy that we didn't talk about is
Gage.
Oh, we know. I guess that's a different position. Sorry, you asked me about Logan Thomas. What was your question?
What's his price?
He is 3.6 on DraftKings.
Okay.
So here's what I looked at. So the last week, other than the main obvious tight ends, the tight ends who ran the most routes were Hayden Hurst and Logan Thomas. And Arizona is historically bad over the last 3 years against the tight end position. So I love Logan Thomas. I also love Hayden Hurst as a different exposure to that Atlanta passing game, and Russell Gage. He's the other one. But those are the guys who I really like. You can play Chris Herndon. That's fine. He's going to get peppered with targets probably. But Logan Thomas, I think, has a little bit of upside here in a game that I'm already trying to attract it to. So he's high on the list for me.
Yeah, the only reason I mentioned Logan Thomas's price is because it's going to be helpful to me because I probably have too much of the Chris Herndon. So I could use some of the some Logan Thomas as a not price pivot because not like whatever, but yeah, at a similar price, so I don't have too much exposure to that guy.
Yeah, like another weird one that's going to be sound really weird to people, but Mo Alley Cox, like without Doyle in the lineup, and I think maybe the projection system will adjust, but at 3K, like he's going to end up, he should actually be pretty popular by the end of it, even though right now he's literally projected as being owned by a person. But he would be the other one I would look at.
I'll do that. I mean, again, I'll spread that out. That sounds good.
Yeah. Real quick, to answer a question before we get out of here. Hines natural pivot. I actually agree with that about Hines, but I like other running backs way better than I like Hines at the same price, like Melvin Gordon. And by the way, Phillip Rivers loves to dump the ball to the running back, so it does make me nervous because both these guys could go off because of that. But I really think that Melvin Gordon, David Johnson had like no ownership. I'm very interested in. Malcolm Brown is another one of the pivots. And do I like Malcolm Brown as my running back? OOJL asked. I have a little bit of interest, but I just prefer the other guys a little bit more. And I'm worried that it could go to our other guy just depending on game flow. He could get vultured some touchdowns, just the way the Rams are going to run things this year. So that worries me a little bit. I love Hilton. Absolutely love T.Y. Hilton. I didn't talk about it very much. I hope he and Rivers can get some sort of rapport down. Rivers will dial into receivers, and that's partly what's made what's his name so great for so long, Keenan Allen. But T.Y. Hilton at 5,700 at home, that's the guy who I might be the most overweight on the field on. Devontae Adams is my favorite receiver, but it's hard to get him in. T.Y. Hilton's pretty easy to get in, and he's just, I think it's just a spectacular play.
All right,
guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Any last Q2s in the next 60 seconds? And unless we do, Sheets, I'm going to leave it up to you to say one bold home run call tonight for baseball. Just one.
Joey Gallo.
This is your guy, isn't it? You just love to say Joey Gallo every night. All right, I can't take a Dodger because that's too easy. I will take Avisail Garcia. And you know what? He's even cheaper, so I'll take Ryan Braun. Ryan Braun's the one I really feel comfortable hitting a home run.
I like it.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm glad we trucked through. I know, and most of you guys might have been there. I'm on all kinds of pain medication.
You did good.
We lasted. Oh, real quick. Any love for Singletary? I'm not into him, but I completely get the play. I would rather play Cohen myself. That's just me.
I'd also like to say, everybody, by the way, for those, you guys, I don't know how much you can see of the background of my whatever. This is probably going to be the last time you see this background for a while because my 2-week quarantine is over.
Oh, my goodness. He's going to be a man about town. So it ends today? Tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be back in my office on Monday.
Oh, my goodness, man. That's awesome. You excited?
No.
Sheets is like the exact opposite of every person. He's not competitive, but he wins. And then he's like, he's forced to be stuck at home in quarantine, and it's like a good life to him. Like, he doesn't have internet, no big deal. I'm like, God, I would have lost my mind in all these situations. Real quick, just did get the Dodger lineup. By the way, it doesn't look like Will Smith's in there. At least at first glance, I didn't notice him in there. So just you can always make a pivot there. But I wouldn't fall in love with Austin Barnes. All right, guys. For Sheets, I'm Bobby. Thank you for joining us for the QLTV show. We are out of here. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you later.